All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hope everyone's doing well today. Last reminder on this, please make sure you've got your first, last name, organization, institution, all that good stuff, your district listed, as well as your membership and your certification status on there. So we have a great session today preparing us for convention, which is exciting. That's only a couple weeks away. Excited to see a bunch of you in person instead of just the floating head on Zoom, which has been fun to see some of you prior to today. If you guys can, if you're not on the panel, please make sure you keep yourself muted. That helps me out a bunch through that. Just a couple updates, man. It's really neat. In fact, this is even outdated because we just got some more boxes. Clean out for Causewise. We're only 53,000 pounds or 53,000 pounds away from a million, which is a huge, we've had a really incredible past couple weeks. Nearly 12, 13,000 pounds have come in the last 2.5 weeks, which has been incredible. So big thanks to you guys and the support with that. The Locker Room Direct Surplus Consignment Program has been going really well. We've started a few, we're finishing a few. For those of you that want more information on selling some of your stuff and adding revenue line to your equipment room, please let us know. Be glad to talk to you more about that. On the Uncommon Sports side, the Academy and the Christians Working in Sports activities that we have, those are coming up here soon. Christians Working in Sports actually starts in July. So if you're in the area or it's something that you want to join, it's July 11th and 12th. We definitely have some room to help out any equipment managers that want to attend that. So please let me know. Lastly, we are doing another equipment manager book study this summer. Really excited to do this one. It starts the week of June 16th. We run that on Mondays and Fridays via Zoom call. All of your reading is kind of sent out with notes, keeps everyone on track. We're doing a book called Bad Bosses. This is not about your bad boss or if you're a bad boss personally. It is a really neat book, kind of a leadership book, taking some different things from the Old Testament and applying it to leadership styles. So that's a really neat one. We're looking forward to doing this summer. Be a great opportunity for you guys to get to know each other on a different level if you're interested in that. So without further ado, just as another last promises last time. Again, first, last name, school, org, district, certified, not certified. The biggest thing, guys, is just make sure, please have your cameras on so we can continue to do these calls and you guys continue to get CEUs because that is the big thing. We just want to make sure everyone is attentive. And this is one that we need you attentive most often because this is really an open forum. And part of this is we did allow time at the end. So if you do have questions that you want to ask our panel, please start putting those in the chat now. I'm going to do my best of collecting those and going through those and combining where I need combining and all that kind of stuff with those questions towards the end. So please feel free to fire away and add things to the chat if you want to send them directly to me or just throw it into the group chat. I'll pick them up and add them to the end. So here's our schedule. So we're going to be in convention soon, and I know the mentorship and engagement committee is putting together the next round of schedule. So in that, the big thing that they're asking is if you have ideas for sessions for the future, or if you want to be part of one of these sessions as a panelist in the future, please let us know. This is a huge membership-driven organization. This does not happen without you guys. So we need, to be honest with you, we need more fresh faces, more fresh ideas than just the people that are part of the committee. So we need you guys to contribute. Don't be one of those people that sits back and complains or wishes things could be better, but doesn't actually do anything to make said better. So feel free to step in and share your ideas. Again, the mentor mentee, I know we'll talk about more of that at convention, but just kind of as a reminder, use that Gmail mentorship engagement or AMA@gmail. Email, I know Katie's out, but email that and we'll get you hooked up with that process and that program. So without further ado, the three that have taken on the task of having an open forum, which as we are starting the email on this is quite possibly daunting, is Anthony Martin joining us from Rutgers, our wizard behind the all of our great social media stuff. Dom is joining us from Wichita State, and Quinn has put together the questions and everything for us, is joining us from Trinity. The big thing with the three, we're really trying to focus on some of the questions that have been submitted, but really trying to focus on things that have been asked as far as the profession is concerned, about convention, about some of those types of things to kind of give us some focus in a quote unquote open forum. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Anthony. You're going to be first to be put on the spot. So let's have you do the introduction. What's your current role and what's the experience that you have at Rutgers and in the past? And what's your favorite part about being an equipment manager?
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Anthony Martin, Rutgers University in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. I'm currently, at Rutgers. I do men's basketball primarily. I do gymnastics, wrestling, and rowing as well. I've my equipment career. I went to Michigan undergrad, worked hockey, went to Georgetown grad school, worked with the Washington Capitals, so did a little pro there for a minute. And then I spent 6 years at Oregon State, kind of doing all the Olympic sports and dipping a little bit into football. I went to Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania, so FCS, ran all of that, football, all that kind of good fun, and then Rutgers for the last 5-6 years. And my favorite part of being equipment manager, I just like the relationships, just meeting people. Every year you got new players and coaches and vendors and staff, and just you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen, and you see them succeed. Whether it's, hey, a player made it pro in something, or hey, he's an accountant or whatever. It's fun. So I like all the relationships. I like going to these things and meeting new people, and it keeps you young. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. And we'll go to Dom next.
What's up, y'all? My name is Dominic Elsner. I'm our Director of Equipment Operations here at Wichita State. I started as a student equipment manager over at Duke, and after graduation, I started working at UTSA, did a little bit of football and Olympics. After a couple of years, I took an assistant director job at Stanford, was there for about 3 years until this job here at Wichita State opened up, and moved here about a year ago and haven't looked back since. My favorite part about being an equipment manager, there's really so many, but I think it goes down to sort of what Anthony said as well. These relationships are huge. I call them kids, even though some of them are like 24, 25, 26 years old nowadays. But the relationships with our student athletes are absolutely amazing. Whether they go on to play pro, whether they go on to transfer somewhere else. I like to think of the sort of equipment room as a open door system for student athletes, coaches, whoever wants to come hang out, vent, get everything off their chest. And being a small part of trying to help everyone's lives be a little better is one of the best aspects of the job.
Awesome. Thanks, Don. And we'll finish up with Quinn.
Yeah, hi. I'm Quinn Patterson. I'm the head athletic equipment manager here at Trinity University, D3 down in San Antonio, Texas. I've been running this, 10 years now. I've been the head. I started out as the assistant, was there for a year as the assistant, and then transitioned to the head once my previous head retired. My favorite part, hate echoing what everyone else has said, but it really is the connections. I just like being a small part of their development, especially at the D3 level. We're not really going to go pro in a lot of sports, so helping them become better men and women as they grow into their adult lives is kind of always nice. One little nugget I'll add is I also get to be a huge part of the design aspect for things. So that's always a fun part of it, is having my creativity being flourished. We've started to slowly trickle in as a tertiary color, like a Carolina, Violet blue. So it's been fun kind of moving that in. Our baseball team got new blue uniforms this year, and it was fun to kind of build that in and kind of, get to have that creative role as well as on top of, the relationships.
Thanks, Quinn. We'll come right back to you, Quinn, with our first official question, but let's talk about convention. A couple weeks away. For those that maybe haven't been or haven't been in a while, or even maybe have been, but maybe only been there for maybe a day or gonna be able to be there the whole time. What can we expect? What are you looking forward to the most, and what are some helpful hints for some of those first timers on the call that are going to be at convention?
Yeah, I think as always, like, Josh kind of mentioned the early going, like we have a lot of familiar faces within the association, people that, do a lot of stuff and you see them a lot and you get to know them. So I always say like getting as involved as possible, like network, talk to people, say like, hey, I want to be involved in more. What can I do? What committees can I help, you know, be steered toward and kind of do stuff. But I think the biggest thing is always just like go and learn as much. I know obviously it's a great opportunity for all of us to network and see all of our friends in the association and people we don't always get to see. And there's a good like, buddy atmosphere, but I think what's always lost is the actual education aspect of it, like learning something new about the profession or what's coming on in different sports. So I always use that as a great opportunity, but also, if you're on the Golden Knights tour, go see the facilities, take it in, like take tricks and trade of like, oh, they do this. Maybe I can apply this to whatever I'm working with here as far as like storage or systems or whatever like that. I think it's always a good opportunity to grow and learn as not, as much as it is to network and have fun and meet vendors and stuff like this. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that. I would say attend all you can, meet as many people as you can for all the first timers, just have little conversations. I know the vast majority of people are incredibly approachable and want to talk to you. So don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Use the breakout sessions and all the other things. Use the new membership game night on the first night. All these different opportunities just to get your face out there and talk to people essentially.
Awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Anthony, would you chime in with some of the aspects you would take away from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think he said the best thing to do is like obviously it's fun. Vegas, if you haven't been, it's fun. It's got every vice you need. I'm personally sick of Vegas. I've been too many times when I was out west and this and that. And plus I was there for 6 days with a basketball tournament recently. So I'm good with it, but it is fun. You'll see a lot of people there just because it's Vegas. But what's also good with a lot of people is we're gonna have a lot of vendors this year. So there's 2 days that we have the vendor exhibits. I think it's 9 to 12-ish, give or take. Go see every booth, thank all of them for being there. That's why, if you don't know how it all works, that's kind of how it works. They spend money to try to get some business and meet people. So go meet them, go thank them. Even, like I stop at every booth. We have I'm in a brand new facility. We have brand new laundry machines. I don't need anything, but I'll go talk to those vendors because you never know when something happens or, hey, we have a falling out with your vendor. You need someone who's like, hey, I met this guy at convention. I don't know much else about it, or I don't know who else even uses it, but here's something. So go learn as much as you can, even like, hey, you have a embroidery shop in your hometown that's good. You don't need them, but hey, maybe they're doing something special at the company in Illinois or down in Texas. It's like, hey, maybe there's some special product that I'll ship something to Texas instead of driving it to the place in New Jersey because they offer something different. And so yeah, see vendors, thank vendors, learn from them. And then like Quinn said, just meet everyone. Like, you see someone, standing there, some random, we all stick out. It's like, oh, hey, some person like, oh, you're a D3 school. I like your hat you're wearing or something. And just, like he said, everyone's pretty open and like, try to build something like, if I see someone at some small school in Oregon, I'm like, oh, cool. I was there for 6 years, blah, 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 conversation. Just, it's nice to, it's nerve wracking. There's a lot of people, people stick to who they know, which is totally fine. That's part of it. But, for the new members and new people, just try to talk to people, talk to whoever. And, if you get something out of it, it's tough though. Cause I've been there. It's, it's like speed dating and that's not too much fun, but, enjoy it, have fun, be outgoing and just learn as much as you can.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. We'll jump on over to the next question here. How do you juggle work-life balance? I know we've had some actually sessions on this, but this question kind of came in and Obviously things have changed over the last 12 months in all of our roles. So as things change and all that, how are you balancing it? Is it getting easier? Is it getting harder? And how are you balancing family? You know, you guys have family. How are you balancing that with this profession? So we'll start with Dom on this then, and then we'll go to Anthony next.
So luckily, as the single 27-year-old, I don't have to worry about a wife and kids a little too much with this one. But it is getting a bit harder to manage work-life balance just with the transfer portal, with constant recruiting in every single sport. And so, for better or worse, you really need to be in sync with your staffs, I think, to figure out when's a good time to get out of the office. I think there was one week this year where I timed how often I was in the office, and it was about 85 hours in a week with basketball season going on, combining with a little bit of baseball season. So we're always going to be working. We will almost always work 40 hours a week, but I like to use, this week as a perfect example. Our workouts for men's basketball, one of my primary sports, don't start until 2 weeks from now. No one's really in the office. Like, I'm going to work more than 40 hours a week, but like take this quiet time to take a day or two to get out of the office, whether you want to go do something, go have dinner, go meet up with your friends, do whatever. I'm 27 going on 60, so I like to just sit on the couch and watch sports with my dog. But having just that ability, the work will always be here. And when you know you have a little bit of time to just sort of take a break, there's no need to force yourself to get something done that doesn't really need to be done for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. So that's how I try to sort of manage everything. I'm a little more blessed to be in this director role. So what I like to do with my staff, for example, my assistant is one of our primaries for baseball now. And what I do with her is when she's working, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I have her, if the laundry's taken care of Sunday night, feel free, like, don't come in on Monday. Like, take that time, relax. You just work the whole weekend. Or if you want to leave early on Sunday, come in Monday, take care of the laundry, and then get the heck out. So just sort of realizing that, oh, like, we work a lot and that's super normal, but trying to take a little bit of time to, like, a little bit of time for ourselves. Realistically, like, we do so much that's for other people, that servant first mentality, which I'm super here for. It's really easy to get lost in not taking care of yourself.
That's a great tip. Thank you. Anthony.
Yeah, so I'm bad at this, but so I am the married, 2 kids, and a Great Dane at home. I guess my secret, my wife also works in sports, so that helps understand what's happening. Also makes it confusing when we all have games on the weekends. But yeah, I'm not the best at this. It's hard. My thing is just make sure you communicate and are flexible. Be open with your teams about, hey, what's happening, if you can or can't make it. If, obviously if you have a nice support staff, Rutgers, we have great people working here and a great boss that can, like, hey, I've got to go do this, something happens. But just with your teams, like, you got to just let them know, like, hey, I have to leave at 4:30 today to go pick up my daughter. The room can survive. There's nothing that pressing. Or if there is something, like, all right, hey, maybe it's like, all right, well, let's strategize, and, like, all right, in case I'm leaving at 4:30, which is, that's our normal time to leave. So that's not a bad example, but, like, all right, maybe I'll put an extra thing in your closet that you have access to only, that, for in a pinch. If not, the next day I'll get it, I'll ship it, whatever we need to do. Other things I'm, believer on is, we all have our phones with us 24/7. We're glued to them. I do a lot of work from my phone. I have lots of apps and things that I can do. So, that's obviously good and bad. Like, I'll sit there, we're watching The Last of Us at night, and I'll respond to an email at 8 o'clock. I shouldn't, but I just do, because I'm like, might as well knock it out. So, yeah, like I said, I'm not great at this, but I'm also not going crazy. So I'm okay with it. And then the other thing, like, be okay to, it's always been my philosophy, and, like, I'm fortunate here at Rutgers, we're in a good spot, but, like, be okay to close your equipment room. Like, like, there's so many people, like, especially when it comes to this convention, like, you work 300 something days, over 5 days a week, all year long. We work really hard. Transfer portals, this, that, summer practices. In my opinion, we can all shut down an equipment room on a Monday, Tuesday in June and go to professional development and go to convention. Obviously, it's it's up to your, your situations, but like, that's just my personal belief. Obviously, if it happens, it happens. But, I just think like, hey, we work hard all year. I'm going to do a lot before I leave for Vegas, and I'll do a lot after. But like for those 2 days, we can survive. And yeah, so that's just kind of my thoughts.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, guys. We'll jump over to a question. We're going to focus on you, Quinn. So we're going to take this one as far as the validity behind the 10-year shoulder pad lifespan and kind of the conversation around that. What do you know about when it'll take effect? How long do schools have to get in compliance? What are you doing, I guess, to start preparing for that? Obviously, it affects you guys probably more than it would maybe an FBS program. So if you could kind of share that and get everyone kind of caught up, or at least get some awareness out there for those on call.
Yeah, obviously, football people, we've heard about this coming for a little bit of time now. I did reach out to our Riddell rep that we have here, just to kind of get an idea of like what they're hearing on their end. It's similar to what we've been hearing. Nothing's been passed yet, a law, but obviously we have an understanding that it might be coming. They've told me like the way they track it is the same way they would track helmets. They have, a scanner on the shoulder pads, and they have a initial year on those. So, it's kind of just always in my mind, what I learned from a past convention was you always kind of want to be replacing 10 to 15% of your inventory regardless. That's at least the minimum if you're at a smaller school. Like if you can try to do that every year and kind of build into your budget, it's always an effective way that you're going to cycle things out naturally, and you won't ever have anything beyond a lifespan that it should. But as of right now, it's still speculations and just talking about it. I know it has to pass a lot of votes first to go from there. So I would imagine that obviously, as far as the compliance aspect, I know this question did come from a smaller school, and they were concerned that like a lot of their shoulder pads might be considered outdated. Should they enforce this rule? And then, they have to find a way to raise all this money to buy all new shoulder pads right up front. I think there's going to be obviously, it's going to be like small segments and kind of brought in, but obviously, as much as you can get ahead of it ahead of time is your best bet. So if you're, thinking it's coming, then it's just like, okay, let's start looking into it. Let's start investing now, kind of building that inventory as is now. Like I said, if you can get into the habit of building into your budgetary aspects of just buying new every year, you'll eventually start cycling out the older stuff naturally. And then obviously with the advancements in technology, it's going to kind of continue to roll through anyway. So that's best you can get ahead of it now before obviously all the new rules and stuff come into place. Then that's going to be your best bet, just to kind of have it as a staple, and then you can build into the future of it all, and really making sure your inventory is constantly up to date and you don't get surprised by anything in essence.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking that on, Quinn.
Yeah.
We'll bump over to our next question. This one, I guess kind of anybody can chime in. But do you have a policy for returning any gear when a player enters the transfer portal? Obviously, this has become a big issue for a lot, bigger for some, depending on your numbers and the transfer portal. Is there a time frame? Is there a checklist? I think the big one is, how are you working with other departments? How is that communication? Is it just an email? What kind of issues are you guys trying to basically fix on the fly as this thing evolves into something much bigger? So we'll start over with Anthony and kind of work our way through. So Anthony, if you would start us off.
Yeah, I guess we're, the big Big Ten school over here, but we don't have a policy in place about, we don't need any of their stuff back, especially, it's been through 11 months of wear and tear. We just make sure we talk with our staff, because obviously, you'll hear rumblings if they're in the portal or not, but until compliance lets you know, it's one thing. And then I just deal with our coaches. There's a lot of times like a guy might leave, but he's in the portal, but maybe he's not gone yet for the next couple of weeks. Maybe coach is like, it's okay, let him keep working out, and like we don't need to clean out his locker. So just kind of figuring that out, like, because in my world, like, even guys that only last 1 year at Rutgers and then go somewhere else, it's like, hey, they were still part of the big family here. no hard feelings to me. Other coaches, they have their own opinions, but I'm not kicking anyone out until I'm told to. And then, so we don't need anything back. And then, obviously make sure all right, uniforms or anything important like that, but those are in our possession anyway. But if we're, say we're going to reuse a practice uniform for the summer, make sure we collect that. But all in all, it's good. Transfer portal stinks, but it's the new reality. And, so sorry, I don't know much more about that.
Where are you getting communication as to who's in the portal and who's coming back, and where does that come from? Your coaching staffs that you work with, or does that come from somewhere else?
Yeah, so typically the coaches, obviously, you gossip all year about, oh yeah, this guy's done at the end of the year, he's gonna go there or whatever. And then I just talk with the coaches, when it ends, it's like, oh yeah, Joe's gonna be in the portal. And then our compliance department does a great job here where they'll email a list, if they make an adjustment to the roster, and then, they'll send it out that day that says these 2 names are in the transfer portal, or this one is professional. Actually, just 5 minutes ago, I just got an update for our men's basketball compliance roster saying, it's more for the new guys. It's like, oh, transferring from, Kansas, or, or just in the portal or exhausted eligibility. So a lot of collab there.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Don, would you chime in on how you guys are handling it?
Yeah, so it's a little similar here. I've gotten more in sync with our compliance department, I think, in the past 18 months than I've been in my whole career. Because essentially, as soon as a kid hits the portal, compliance will send out an email, and then I'll go up and meet with our director of ops, our player personnel people, and essentially say, hey, is there a chance they come back? Hey, are they going to keep working out? Similar to what Anthony said. The biggest issue we have is our men's basketball, women's basketball staffs treat their players very differently. On the women's side, if a kid hits the portal, they're not coming back. It's done. It is what it is. No locker room access, so on and so forth. Whereas on the men's side, he's like, our head coach is like, oh, this is the new norm. Let them keep working out. They're going to be around anyway. Like Anthony said, they were part of the family for a year. They put in the work. I'm not going to kick them out of the locker room. So it's really, really just being in sync with those staffs to figure out how they want to handle it, because it's just so different. And luckily, similar when it comes to returning gear, we don't really keep anything from them, especially after that year of use. Coach likes to give out the uniforms to his graduating kids at the end of the year. And talking about, say, basketball, if you hit the transfer portal, his rule was you don't get every uniform, you just get one, which fine with me. What am I going to do with a uniform with the last name of a kid who doesn't play here anymore? So that's a really, your mileage may vary depending on your staff, depending on your department. But the only thing we really keep are our big ticket items, like our big expensive wheel bags that we don't want to replace every year, and so on and so forth. So it's, for me, it's just really being in sync and meeting with compliance, meeting with our head coach, meeting with our director of ops, whoever is sort of your equipment liaison. I'm lucky enough to be close enough with my staff so that I could just go up to the head coach and ask, whereas, some people go through Adobo or so on and so forth. So like I've just been hammering home, it's just that sort of cohesiveness that just comes from being around.
Perfect. Thanks, Dom. I'm going to kick it over to you, Quinn. I know you don't have a ton of transfer portal stuff, but I know it exists in D3. Is it hitting you guys at all? I guess this is more of a personal curiosity, so I apologize for everyone, but really want to know if you guys are seeing that maybe an influx more, that it's more comfortable. And just with general roster changes, I'm always kind of interested in how the communication is and where all that comes from at all levels. So if you could share a little bit on that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, we're not crazy. We don't have kids in the portal all the time, but on chance we do. Our men's basketball coach just left, and he took one of his kids with him. Our football team, we had a couple guys hit the portal right after the season as well. Very rare. If anything, we kind of see, especially with the new roster caps, we're going to see a lot more kids dropping down from the D1 level. We saw that in January, we ended up getting 4 new football guys. That's all communicated, Dom and Anthony said, through my coaching staffs. We do have a a Google sheet that is updated every time our coaches, they have to update it as far as compliance is concerned. And it's just an add drop sheet. So it tells us, hey, if we're adding a student athlete, we're dropping. It's like, here's the reason, here's their ID number. So it gives me kind of some information, their email address. So if I do have to reach out to get sizing, or if we have to get stuff back, that way I know, hey, this kid's leaving. If I have to get it back, I know that. And, it's again, talking to the coach, 9 times out of 10, a lot of our kids, their t-shirts, their workout stuff they keep. It's just kind of like Anthony and Dom said, it's like our big ticket items, practice gear, like for basketball with the pinnacles and stuff like that, just making sure that's all being turned in, any uniform pieces, stuff like that might be floating out there. Travel bags, like I said, stuff we don't want to replace. But again, t-shirts, shorts, workout gear, they're all going to keep. And then, for us, kids coming in is more likely of a situation, and we'll get a couple. We had one in women's soccer, one in like 4 in football. We'll get kids more coming in, just kind of making sure we're getting all their size information, all that stuff. But we're not going to see massive influxes in rosters as kids hit or come in. So for us, it's just kind of staying on top of it. Again, communication, can't preach it enough. And then just being on top of it with our coaches, making sure they, we're knowing what's coming in and who's leaving, and just making sure we're set there.
Awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Appreciate it. Next question. Let's talk about meetings we have with administration, other departments throughout the year. I think this is great for maybe someone new to maybe a head role, or even new to the equipment manager profession. What other departments should they be aware of? Maybe someone before them or hadn't taught them before. Where have you seen some advantages as you've opened up these communication lines, those types of things? So we'll start out with Quinn. We'll come back to you on this. But really interested, obviously it's going to vary greatly between what you do, and then we'll kick it over to Dom next. The big thing, I think, inside and outside athletics, because I think D3 specifically, there's much more of a or outside of athletics, probably communication than anywhere else. So Quinn, if you could start us off, and then we'll go over to Dom.
Yeah. I think one of the blessings and curses of D3 is we're obviously a small, tight-knit group. Sometimes we know a little too much about each other, but also it does provide us. So one thing we do at Trinity is we have a weekly staff meeting between our head coaches and administrative staff and our ADs there. So it gives us a chance to have an open forum like this, like address any things like if we have to send a message instead of putting in an email or something, we can have a discussion about it. A lot of times our AD or our senior women's administrator will bring stuff back from either conference meetings or AD meetings. We're like, hey, this is coming up. Do we have any opinions on this? It also gives us a chance to talk about like various aspects like compliance. It gives our chance for our sports information team to talk, or athletic training. I have a segment where I can like bring up anything that needs to be discussed across the university and the athletic department. But again, like, beyond that, I know that's not capable for everybody. So it's just about like having, good ties with everybody. If you want to like have direct superior that you want to start setting up meetings with, maybe it's initiating that and being like, hey, is there a time weekly where even if it's just, just catching up and making sure we're all on the same page on everything, that's always, I think, very helpful. But also like, one of the big connections I have is with our, athletic training group. I think we work very hand in hand, and it also helps like, like if we're planning, like, okay, if like kids hurt and stuff like this. And for us, we have we can vary and dress rosters because we don't have roster caps. So it's like, hey, if this kid gonna dress this week, is he not, is she not gonna dress? Like it kind of can vary. So it's like knowing to help, minimize things just being out in the abyss and just maybe losing stuff. It's just that way you can have a good communication, knowing how far they're off, chances of playing, and like, kind of just having that quick connections. But also, if like we've had a kid who's got a hip injury and we want to add some extra padding, as far as like maybe like a girdle, like if it's a basketball kid hitting the hardwood, having the hip, it's great to have that communication, that connection. Like, hey, what are you needing? Like, I can help you out, instead of like it being strictly an athletic training thing or strictly an equipment thing. We can kind of work together and kind of, figure out that stuff. But that's can be a floating meeting. That can be, I know our athletic trainers meet once a week to go over injury reports with the coaches staff. So it's just kind of those things. If you can try to schedule stuff, it's the best way to do it, in my mind.
Anything outside of the department, whether it be facility stuff for you or anything outside that kind of general university stuff that's been good for you?
Yeah, again, being a small campus, there is sometimes a divide though. We joke that our university's kind of split by an old rock quarry. And so we have upper campus and lower campus. Lower campus where all athletics and the dining facilities and the dorms are, and then upper campus is all the academic buildings. So we always talk about bridging that gap. Great relationships with our facilities groups. Obviously, if we need anything as far as repairs like on sleds or walls and stuff like that, just having those connections and really overlapping and having a plan. Like if we know, for instance, we're hosting a baseball super regional this weekend, knowing that's coming up and the possibility, it's just like, okay, what can we do to take those proactive steps to, be on the same page if we need stuff repaired or done, or if we've got a football camp coming up and we need this sled repaired, who do we have to talk to? And just really having those connections and then, having a streamlined group that we can do it. I know I have our facilities manager in my phone. If I ever need anything, I can call them at any time. We've had sprinklers go off in the middle of a game and getting them shut off. It's, lights not coming on, stuff like that. So it's always nice to have those connections that way you can have a quick fix if you need to.
Awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Dom, we'll come to you on this one.
Yeah, so I'm a little lucky that my direct supervisor is in our senior administration. So when I first got here to Wichita State, I mentioned to him I like to meet once a month just so he could bring whatever is happening to me, and then I can bring whatever's happening down to the equipment room and up to him. And it's been a really mutually beneficial relationship, whereas he'll help have my back in those meetings and I can help him out with whatever he needs. And he lets me sort of know what's happening on the front end instead of, limiting the amount of surprises we deal with realistically. We also have a bi-weekly unit heads meeting here with all the department heads in athletics. And it's sort of similar to this. It's just an open forum where it's like, hi, I'm Dom. I'm in equipment. Here's everything I've been working on these past 2 weeks. So everyone sort of really knows what's going on. And then if, say, there's something that sort of impacts me, like, oh, we're talking about baseball senior day. No one talked about baseball senior day with me. I'm really easy. It's really easy for me to pull that sport admin and then get in contact with their ops side and be like, hey, like, what's the plan? Here's what I was thinking. Was waiting for, a date and so on and so forth. So that really helps make everything a little easier. One thing I also did when I first got here about a year ago was I reached out and reached out to meet with every single department sort of on campus, new director, new role, like we're equipment, we touch everybody. So I want to put a face to the guy who lives in the basement near the basketball arena pretty much. And essentially from meeting with those 15, 16 people, the gist of it was, we love this, like ask us to meet. We're not shy. We're just as friendly as, we are, and we can help each other out. Like for instance, I think we've all heard of, potential advertisements on jerseys coming up in the next couple years. As soon as I learned about it at last convention, as soon as I learned about it, I went and talked with our sports properties department, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're well aware of this." And I was like, "Do you want to work hand in hand with this? Because it's my jerseys. Like, how are we going to do this?" And they're like, "Oh, we didn't even think about that." Like, yeah, let's do that. And it's just as simple as saying, "Hey, like, what do you think about this?" And everyone, we're all on the same team here. We're all team Wichita State. We're all team whatever university you're at. So just bringing up things that typically don't think about. We're equipment. We make stuff happen. And so bringing up problems to them before they become problems, it's really simple to, get ahead of things. And those meetings with the administration, with department heads, with whoever really, really make that happen.
I think your key point that I took away from that is getting ahead of it. Proactively make the relationships so you're not having to call a stranger to shut the sprinklers off at a game, or let them know that this logo is not going to work at their new advertisement deal they just sent them. So it's better to have that conversation and have a relationship there before versus being reactive with it. So
For sure.
that's awesome, guys. We appreciate you sharing. We'll bump over to our next question here. How do you guys handle the overlapping seasons, travel, all the other aspects that you oversee when you cover, juggling multiple teams as you all do, really? Do you have any preset time frames based on the season starting? Do you have basically, hey, I can really only help you out during this time slot because I've got other guys, or how are you handling all that? So we'll start at the top. We'll start with Anthony, and then we'll work to Dom next and finish with Quinn.
Yeah, so all my most of my teams are all winter: wrestling, gymnastics, men's basketball. So they all typically, when school starts, the day after Labor Day, they all want gear for that same time. Luckily, the teams have always kind of been good a day or two off, so it's never too crazy. It just, it's a lot of work, and just like you said, open communications, and just like, there's, some teams like, all right, school starts say Tuesday after the day after Labor Day, Tuesday, but all right, men's basketball has a meeting Monday, so I'll make sure like, oh, they want it there, so maybe I have to come in Sunday to put it in their cubbies, but I'm prepping it before that. But then, oh, maybe gymnastics is like, hey, our first team meeting is Wednesday, so then I'm prepping it separately. But then, all right, Tuesday I deliver that, and then maybe wrestling's Friday. It never has been like, hey, we all want it there Monday at the same time. And if it is, it's obviously 3 different places, and I'll bring the stuff to them. So I'll be in a situation where some teams might be issued out of my equipment room, others I bring to their locker room and set it up, or so it's kind of just like communicate and figure it out. And then obviously during the season, obviously we don't have games the same days, but maybe we're packing up and practicing on a men's basketball is leaving on a Saturday and gymnastics is home, and you figure that out. For travel, I don't go to every trip. I go on a couple with men's basketball, and just make sure you're in a good spot. Like, all right, if you're hosting a big 2-day wrestling tournament, like, I probably shouldn't go on that trip with men's basketball versus something else. Or just, make sure you have a good place at home. Like, I have I have a great coworker that's in my equipment room who does women's basketball primarily. And like, all right, if I'm going to go to Vegas for 5 days with men's basketball over Thanksgiving, like, all right, hey, I'm gone, but wrestling, they're just practicing every day. So just make sure the laundry's going around, or, hey, they need bags to be issued for travel on Wednesday. But hey, I talked to coach, I got the list, and then, make sure you're available. Like, since you're not there, back what I said earlier, make sure you're on your phone and like, hey, this is coming in, coach just made a change, and, or, make sure they're aware, hey, Megan's going to be around all week. Make sure you talk to her and have a plan. So yeah, it's, just kind of communicate and hope for the best. And, for those key moments, like you said, beginning of the year, some of those, when you have games during the winter, it's not what we want to hear, but it's the job we signed up for. It's like, hey, there's going to be longer hours, but then, hey, right now, once April, May, June hits, like, hey, I'm just Monday to Friday now, whereas the fall, I'm planning to be there 6 or 7 days a week in the winter for, hey, basketball doesn't stop and wrestling doesn't stop and all that. So, yeah, it's kind of my thoughts.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Dom, can we kick it over to you and get your feedback on this one?
Yeah, so for me, it really just comes down to a lot of communication. I've said it, you've heard me say it once, I'll say it again. We're all team Wichita State, we're all team whatever university. And I bring that even to our equipment room. So I'll pick on men's basketball. They're my main sport. They're my primary point of contact. I'm the primary point of contact for them. But my assistant Lucy and my GA, like, they can help out that as well. And so on with every sport, with baseball, with softball. Like, I want our staffs to know sort of every single person in the equipment room. That way, if I'm traveling with men's basketball and Lucy needs to cover baseball, they're comfortable with her, they're ready for her, they've seen her around, they know exactly what to expect. And then it's really just a bit of a communication. So, hey, Lucy, I'm traveling on the Texas swing trip with our basketball team. Baseball is going to need this, but realistically, this team needs laundry, this team needs laundry. And it's just sort of making a to-do list of what to expect moving forward. And obviously, like Anthony mentioned earlier, our phones are always on. We're glued to them. We can do 21st century technology is awesome. You can do a lot of work from your phone to handle a lot of things. But it really just comes to, I want our teams to be comfortable with not just me, but with everyone in our equipment room. That way, if we need to travel, be with another team. If Lucy needs to travel and be with another team, I can step in and I can step up. She can step in, she can step up. And so there's no real preset timeframes, because at the end of the day, like you heard me earlier, when it comes to work-life balance, you're going to take the time when you have it, depending on your sport. It's really just having my department, my room, just be in sync with each other. Even if Lucy were to come up to me, Lucy, if you're in here, I'm sorry, I'm picking on you. I know you're on vacation right now. If I'm exhausted, I just worked 5 home softball games in 8 days. Like, can I have a day? Like, nothing's going on. I just need to do this one sports laundry. Like, yes, please. Like, go home, relax. That's probably 60 hours of work. Like, there's no real preset time frames. It's just being in sync with my staff, being in sync with everyone else. Because at the end of the day, like, the burnout is real. The burnout is really easy to get, especially with what we do. So if you just communicate with everyone, I think you'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, a good one there is the fact that you can share the face of your department with your other staff. I mean, that is not only helpful for you, but good for your other staff to learn as they grow into their role, and obviously good to manage your work-life balance, which is great. Thanks, Don. Appreciate that. Quinn, would you add your 2 cents to this one?
Yeah, so within my department, I have myself and my assistant. And we do things a little differently, just being a small school, that we don't do specific sport assignments. Yes, I'm the primary on football just because I've been with them the longest, and not throw them in the fire, but we basically like treat it as an umbrella. So it's like we're both in here together working in tandem, like, okay, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And then the only sport I really travel with religiously is football, just because of the needs of repairs and stuff like that, and helping to set up comm systems, all that stuff that takes pressure off the coaches to try to have to do, especially at a lower level. So, but it's again leaving, like Dom said and Anthony said, like leaving a list of like, hey, I'm gone, but we've got home soccer and volleyball. This just needs to be taken care of, and just really be an effective communication. But also, again, like Dom said, that way it creates like it's not just me or it's not just him that covers your sport. Like it's both of us. So it's like we can be in tandem, and all of our coaches know, like, hey, if I'm out of town with football, they know he's got it easily covered, and vice versa. Like if he's off, I can easily help them with stuff. And then technology is great. Like there's been times where I've been traveling with football, plane lands, get 3 texts from coaches or text from him, and then just communicating back and forth, like, hey, this changed up. Cool if you just make this change, kind of going from there. And again, using the time to take off and kind of do this stuff. As far as it also helps with like the overlap, because we are both of us covering all of our sports. It allows us to just have, more, try to create fluid systems. And at the end of the day, our coaches know that if, they're late to the party on doing something, it takes priority of A, who's in season at that time, and B, who's prepared. That constant saying I like to use, your lack of preparedness does not constitute my emergency. So, it's stuff like that where, if we can communicate and do stuff in advance, we always try to have a plan. And then, that allows for an easier when the overlap, especially for us when, we're in the middle of fall and basketball and the winter sports come in to play, because they want everything and they want all the attention because they've been maybe itching to get started. And then the same thing for the spring when baseball and softball and track kind of come into play during basketball season. And just making sure we're having that overlap, and then having a plan through the week. Like if we know XYZ teams on the road but 2 are home, it's like, hey, let's take care of getting the people on the road first. We have a little more time to build out the home because don't have bags and stuff to pack. So it's just creating a plan and just sticking to it. No real set presets, but as much as over the summer, if you can get ahead of stuff and be ready, like Dom said, like even though it's not itching, like you don't have to do it right away, but if it's something you can get ahead of, that way when the madness does kind of start, you can just be ready to rock and roll and have everything good to go, even if there's a late change up with coaches and what they want to do, you're ready for it. So
Great. Thanks, Quinn. All right, loaded question here. We got a few minutes left. Again, if you've got another question, please add it to the chat. We'll try to make some time for it as we wrap up. With the evolution of college athletics, and wow, has that changed dramatically? Do you predict, or what do you predict will be added harder for this profession specifically for equipment managers? It's been really interesting to talk to future equipment managers recently that we've mentored through Uncommon of what does this look like? Do I even want to get into this? Do I want to get into college sports? Because there's a lot of unknown there. So I'd really be interested to hear specifically from Don and Anthony on this and your D1 realm of what you guys think is going to be coming down the road. I know, Anthony, you've really lived it this past year as far as evolution of things go. So we'll start with you, Anthony, and then we'll go to Dom.
Yeah, great. So NIL, it's weird, confusing. It's no one even knows what's happening. So that changes. So, got to just talk to people and, learn from your admin about that. Things I can see happening, just to, be ready for it is, like he hinted at, we had some Nike NIL basketball players this year with our Adidas school. We didn't have to, stock their Nike shoes. They got their own shoes from Nike. They wore, whatever, but maybe down the road that's built into contracts where, now your equipment room, you're not just stocking Adidas that all the teams use. Maybe you're like, maybe you've got 5 athletes that only get Nike for, footwear, and you have to keep it in your equipment room. So you're like a mini NBA team. If you go to an NBA equipment room, they obviously have all the Nike stuff for staff. But then, if Damian Lillard's on your team, there's a whole room of Adidas stuff for him. And so you maybe work with outside vendors. I don't know if it's going to happen because there's a lot of money involved with these big all contracts for all the sports, but everything's changing and, maybe some, it's built in. And so that's something to think. And then Dom hit that out earlier, and it's a great point, and it's on my list. And what I'm going to do at convention is I think we're going to get, sponsors all over our uniforms. Like, I don't think we're going to look like NASCAR yet, but we're definitely going to look like some of these European soccer teams or the MLS, which is awesome. Like, I think it's cool. I think, hey, if you could sell your chest to Jersey Mike's, little logo for an extra $1 million for all your sports or whatever, you've got to, I think, do it. Like, it doesn't hurt. Like, I'm a big fan of international soccer and all that. So I'm used to it, but I can see that coming. So with that, maybe, when you're at convention, especially like, talk to all these companies. There's great companies out there from, IAS or, there's other stalls and all these great companies. There's a new one, I think Deco Graphics is going to be there. And there's a few I'm missing. I don't have the list off the top of my head, but, go talk to them, see what kind of, build up your heat press area, maybe look into a vinyl cutter. It's something I want to get better at here at Rutgers. Whether, obviously if you're at a place with, hey, we have 4 different equipment rooms, maybe one equipment room is kind of your built in, like, hey, we're going to have a great heat press, a big one, a small one, stock it. Like, I've got friends that work in the MLS, so I've seen a lot of those equipment rooms where, you go in and they can make a custom jersey at any moment, and it varies. Obviously basketball, I like twill, football, you use a lot of twills. So you can have those numbers, but then you still need to be able to sew them or get them to a seamstress. But, for some things, maybe it's just like, hey, we're going to have a 3D silicone Jersey Mike's patch in 3 different colors, and it goes on your 3 different color uniforms, and it's something you can heat press on there. And then even if it's like, hey, you do it temporary and then you can get them stitched or whatever. So I think I think sponsors is coming. I don't see why it shouldn't, and I don't see the harm in it. Maybe some schools won't do it, but I think some will. So yeah, like I said, with who knows what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be in the next year or so, if I had to guess. So yeah, with that, like, go to convention and learn and see what you can do. And obviously financially, you got to figure out if you can afford a heat pressing machine, and a whole situation set up. But I think it's something, worth looking into and talking to your admin, because if it comes, it might be easier to do some things in-house versus some things outside. And yeah, I don't think we're going to have our, Adidas, Nike custom uniforms. I don't think they're gonna be like, oh yeah, put the Big Ten patch on and then here's a Jersey Mike's patch, but maybe they do, so stuff to think about. But yeah, use like stuff like that and go to convention and meet all of them. And like you said, maybe they're doing something cool at Deco Graphics that your place isn't, or maybe, you buy it and outsource it, or, so there's great things out there. So that's where like kind of my thought is for the initial future, but it's changing every day, so we'll see.
Thanks, Anthony. Dom, what kind of feedback do you have?
Right now, in the more immediate future, I know one of the ones that we've been struggling with is, what are our roster limits going to be next year? Are these student athletes going to be grandfathered in? My volleyball roster has gone from 18 to 27 to 23 literally in the past 3 weeks. No one really knows, and that makes it a bit difficult to plan because obviously, if they want to grandfather all these kids in and the team wants to pay for all these kids, we have to be ready for all these kids to be here. There's no real good excuse to have 9 kids not outfitted with the rest of the team. So it's really explaining to these staffs, explaining to our finance people, like, we don't know what's happening, but we need to do this. And as we enter this sort of revenue sharing era of college athletics, whenever I'm sure every department is looking to slash budgets, I'm here asking for more money because we want to grandfather in every single kid and add a full freshman class and add transfers. It's a really, really, really delicate balance. And so for me, like one of the harder aspects is how to ask for that money when everyone else is cutting. Because I think in here we'll our equipment rooms, our equipment departments probably spend the most money without bringing anything in. So we're a real prime area to sort of figure out like, oh, they need to cut. But my, 27-year-old head is like, how can I bring money in, whether it's being a part of the jersey sponsor contract negotiations, whether it's part of just being in these meetings with our finance guys. And I don't have a good answer yet. I don't know, but finding a way to sort of use our equipment department to sort of bring more money in. So when I need to outfit an additional 9 volleyball players, an additional 20 track cross country kids that everyone wants to grandfather in, it can sort of be prepared for, it can be ready. I'm sure we all host our, surplus sales to bring money in, but how can we sort of elevate that moving forward? And then going back to what I mentioned earlier about sort of advertising, it's probably going to happen, but then the issue is, where is it going to happen? When you have your conference patch, you have your Nike patch, you have we do a school patch for our guys. So and in an ideal world, you make the NCAA tournament, so there's an NCAA patch there. Like, where is this going to go? Where are you going to establish this real estate? And those are real conversations that you have to have with your administration, with your coaches as well. Like, what are we going to give up to make this happen? Because I don't think putting a Jersey Mike's patch on top of someone's name is really going to look super hot. So, like Anthony mentioned, it changes every day. And I'm sure tomorrow a new lawsuit's going to happen and the roster limits are going to change for the 5th time. But that's really where all of my challenges have been recently.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dom. I appreciate you guys jumping on and being part of it. We really don't have time for additional questions, but if you do, email them into us and we'll do another open forum in the near future. I do want to kick it over to Melly if she's on, if you want to say a few things before we get our QR code out.
Yes, thank you. Please afford me 2 minutes. Thanks again for all of you attending this Zoom. It really shows how much we care about what we do. I'm heading into my 35th national convention, and I've made some of the best friends of my whole life at conventions, and these relationships have carried through professionally and personally for me. So I hope all of you have those opportunities as well. The AEMA, we're on the road to doing big things. Okay, we're on the road to doing big things. Good things are coming. Certification is going to start meaning a whole lot. It's already meant a whole lot to me. And this association means a whole lot to me. I hope to see you at convention. If you have any ideas, any thoughts, we also need to get better. We need to get better for each of you. And these monthly meetings that are put on, someone had a good idea. And look what happened. They made it happen, right? You got a good idea? I want to make it happen too. We need to be there for you. What we want the association that you need. And so with that said, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you in Vegas. If you want to pop over, say hi. Don't worry. I love meeting people. I want to shake your hand. I want to get to know you. I want to be the kind of leader that is getting the association that you want. Anthony, thank you, everything that you do. Uncommon Sports Group, all of you, thank you so much. Hope to see you in Vegas. It's not too late to sign up. Great vendors. Lululemon's going to be there, and they want to get into team athletics. So let's work that vendor hall, and maybe I can get a little contract out of it. All right, everyone, safe travels. Hope we made it through another season, everyone. We're almost done. Softball, baseball, lacrosse. I think it'll last the spring sports. Rest up and let's see you in Vegas.
Thanks, everybody. See you guys soon in a couple weeks, and yeah, feel free to chime in if you've got ideas, because we need them here in a couple weeks when we all meet.
And make sure everyone's certified. Say your CEUs end in a month, so make sure you're all in a good spot. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Josh.
Hey Josh, you're still on.
Yep, I'm still here.
Hey, when I go to click it in, it says the link's already expired.
Okay. Is that the same thing for everybody?
Just checking for this activity is
Yeah.
expired.
Yeah,
Too.
Yep, same here.
Yeah,
Likewise.
same.
it says
Yeah.
it expired at 2, Josh.
Let me take a look real quick, see if I can fix this on the fly, guys. Give me a second. Share something different and see if this works. This is the actual file. See if this works for everybody. Let me know.
Got that open, Brian.
Same thing?
Still saying expired.
Same thing.
Expired.
Okay, just guys, please make sure before you log off, make sure your name and everything is in Zoom. And I'll work with, I have a feeling because we're 3 minutes over, that is what's causing this problem. So please make sure your name and school district, and I'll work with Robin to get everything updated.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, sorry guys. Twin, we gotta talk about this and figure we gotta get a
Yeah.
little bit of a buffer, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, we can talk with Robin about maybe extending it 15 minutes after
Yeah.
in the future, just so we can have that window. Because yeah, you can see it's from the 1
Yep.
and 2. So yeah, if you want, Josh, we can always email back and forth and get Robin and see from there.
I'll try to run the roster later today of who attended, and it's typically if everyone has their name, it's easy, but
Yeah.
the ones that don't have names are the tough ones.
Yeah. Yeah, just shoot me an email if you need anything and I can help out best I can.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Sorry for the mix up again. Different mix up. We'll get it right.
Yep. Thank you, Josh.
Yep.